The legendary crane kick from Ralph Macchio's Karate Kid character comes back several times in the franchise, going as far as crossing over into Cobra Kai. The long-running saga has been far from consistent in both its release timeline and its quality. However, certain elements have stood the test of time and continue to be part of the formula in the modern day. Daniel LaRusso's signature move is used relatively sparingly. This way, any time the kick is brought back into the limelight, it feels much more like an important event rather than a common occurrence. Although each crane kick moment holds a lot of meaning, they aren't all as good as each other. Certain factors improve or detract from the gravitas of a crane kick in the franchise timeline. For instance, it largely takes place during one of the tournaments in the Karate Kid movies and Cobra Kai. Alternatively, some Cobra Kai characters have experienced the kick in personal altercations. After learning the move as part of Mr. Miyagi's training in the first Karate Kid movie, the franchise has brought back the crane kick over and over again, and it has created some brilliant moments. As one of the cornerstones of Miyagi-Do karate, the crane kick is one of the most indefensible moves for the uninitiated. It's only ever failed to immediately end an on-screen conflict once across the entire franchise. Even in the real world, the technique has become a cultural icon and has been referenced, parodied, and paid homage to in many forms of media. Although it's not a real martial arts technique, it is heavily based on genuine forms of combat. As such, it's very believable as an authentic addition to Karate Kid lore. Johnny Lawrence's, crane kick when training with Daniel. Cobra Kai Season 4, Episode 3, Then Learn Fly. There are several moments when the crane kick is only referenced, or when the starting pose is shown. For instance, Macchio's character is revealed in Cobra Kai Season 1 to adopt the crane kick stance when taking pictures with customers at his car dealership. Johnny's beginnings of the crane kick in Cobra Kai Season 4, Episode 3, Then Learn Fly, probably goes beyond mere showmanship. When training with Daniel during the episode, Johnny can be seen in the early stages of the crane kick before Daniel walks away. It's cool, but it would have been better if he'd carried it out because Johnny was the first on-screen recipient of Daniel's crane kick. It would have been fitting if he'd returned the favor so many years later. If Daniel hadn't backed away in annoyance, it's very possible that Johnny would have had the chance to do just that. Losing to the crane kick in the original movie is clearly still a huge point of contention for Johnny, as shown during the earlier stages of Cobra Kai Season 1. That being said, his use of the technique outside the context of an actual fight would arguably have detracted from the moment's potential efficacy. Daniel's failed crane kick against Chozen Taguchi. The Karate Kid Part 3, 1989. More recently, Yuji Okamoto's character has become a loyal ally to Daniel LaRusso, but the beginning of their relationship wasn't quite so friendly. As one of the main antagonists of the second Karate Kid movie, Chozen challenges Daniel to a fight that is intended to be fatal for at least one of the two young men. Given the success of the crane kick at the end of the first movie, it would be reasonable to assume that Daniel could utilize the technique again to defeat Chozen. Unfortunately for Macchio's character, Chozen is more than prepared and renders the move inert. This particular crane kick is the only one that's fully executed in the Karate Kid franchise that fails. Granted, if Daniel had succeeded in landing the kick, it would have brought something of an abrupt end to what was shaping up to be an excellent fight. Additionally, it would have resulted in a finale that would have been far too similar to that of the movie that preceded it. Daniel's failure to replicate his success against Johnny from the franchise's first installment meant he had to dig deeper. It was a good sequence, but the kick itself was intentionally lame. Miguel's crane kick in the All Valley. Cobra Kai Season 1, Episode 10, Merce. Bringing back the crane kick after the franchise had been dormant for so long was always destined to be a tricky job. There was no way that Cobra Kai would completely omit the move, but it had to come at the right time. While the obvious choice might have been to save the kick for the final of the All Valley in Cobra Kai Season 1 finale, the writers made the conscious decision to introduce it a little before that when Miguel employs the crane kick against a nameless character in one of the earlier rounds. Cobra Kai does a great job of not establishing a new main character to take over from Daniel, and giving Miguel or Robbie the crane kick in the final would have undone the careful balancing act. Instead, the writers allow the iconic move to have its moment by allowing Johnny's student to use it in full view of his old rival. The moment is over in a flash, but it has a ton of meaning without dominating events. It's a creative solution to bring back the kick, even if it is quite basic from a visual perspective.